Hello and welcome to today's edition of The Native Lawyer. As usual, we are here to x-ray some of the norms and practices that we see in our Nigerian society on a daily basis. And the pertinent question now is, what does the law say about these things that we see on a daily basis? And that's what we are here to do. And without wasting much of your time, just meet my guest.
Dr. Precious Daniel. Precious Daniel has gained considerable experience in taxation, general criminal and civil litigation, as well as oil and gas. He has represented corporate bodies, multinational companies, government agencies, and individual clients in labor laws, banking, taxation, as well as oil and gas. Precious is a graduate of Ambrose Ali University, Ekpoma, and also the Nigerian Law School in Lagos. He is a member of the Nigerian Bar Association. ATV Waziri is a legal practitioner based in Port Harcourt. He is a graduate of the Rivers State University. He has a passion for writing and research. His major areas of interest are intellectual property law and human rights law. He is also a social commentator who lends his voice on trending social issues.
So, welcome, gentlemen. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Welcome to today's edition. So today we want to x-ray the police as an agent of debt recovery. I don't know if you have any personal experience, Mr. Daniel.
Yes. Well, personally, I've not had any interface with the police as to recovery of debts.
Okay.
But I've had interactions with some clients of mine who are on both sides, have been on both sides of the divide, either as debtors or as creditors, with respect to recovery of debt. And I've advised them accordingly as to the necessary steps they should take. And that's
Wasini, how about you? Any experience?
Okay, just like my colleague said, I don't have any personal experience of the police recovering debt, either from me as a debtor or a creditor. But I've had numerous instances whereby clients have come to me. Either they want to recover debt from the police, or the police is harassing them for money owed. So I've had experiences too.
So now I'm just wondering, assuming but not conceding that I am a tenant, I am a landlord rather, and there's a tenant that is owing me rent. Let's say for a year or two. Some human beings can be, in fact, I beg not to use the words, but then, and I want to recover that sum, and I now go and get the police. Because most of these people, when they see police, they calm down. When they see landlord, they are very aggressive. Oga landlord, leave that thing. Oga landlord, leave that thing. But when you involve the police, they become calm. They now want to talk to you to settle things amicably. So would it be wrong for me to involve the police, for me as a landlord to recover that sum? Or a simple contractual matter, I want to recover money that is being owed, and I want to recover that sum. Would it be wrong? Is it legal or unconstitutional for me to involve the police in recovering that sum? Mr. Wasini, you can help us with that.
Okay. It is going to be wrong and illegal for you to involve the police in the recovery of debts or in ejecting a tenant from your premises. Why that is so is this. Now, by law, the police is set up by law. There is a law called the Police Act, which sets up the police. Okay. Now, if we look at the functions of the police vis-a-vis the Police Act, there is no way whereby the police is clothed with powers to eject tenants from premises or to recover debt owed. All these things are purely civil matters.
Okay, I will come back to you on that. But he has said that it is not legal for me to involve the police. So what now is the legal means of recovering a debt? Or from the scenario I just painted, the landlord, how should the landlord recover that money that is being owed?
Thank you very much. Now, we should understand first of all that the business between the police and the landlord is a purely civil matter.
The police and the landlord. Okay, the tenant and the landlord. Right, okay.
The tenant and the landlord is a purely civil matter.
Okay.
And by virtue of that, the police has no business in engaging themselves in recovering that sum. Okay. So what the landlord should do is that he should take him to court. There are ways, numerous ways that the law has provided for us to recover monies that persons are owing us. So the landlord can take him to the magistrate court and sue him for rents that he has been owing and for delivering of vacant possession of the property that he is living in.
Okay. You said I should go to court. Now, if I don't go to court, because I understand that a lot of times the Nigerian judicial process is very slow. In fact, it is so slow that you should not make plans based on the judiciary. Because, for instance, the landlord that wants to recover that money wants to use the money to pay his son's school fees. And you tell him to take the matter to court. The court that before the court will deliver judgment, the son have been rusticated, if not sent to go home. You understand? Because most of these scenarios, we are looking at indigent Nigerians, people that are surviving based on these things. So now, if I now don't go to court and decide to use the police to recover that sum, do I stand to face anything? Is there anything that can be levied against me? That's my question.
Okay, yes. Using the police to recover debts being owed, you that is the creditor, you stand the risk of being liable to the debtor for so many things. Now, before I even say that, what we should know is this. There's a clarification I want to make. Yes, the judicial system is slow, no doubt, but in recent times, progress has been made on many fronts. So, for us to have this conception that going to the court is not the best because of delays and all that, I don't think is very correct. We are in the system. You can go to the magistrate court, for instance, in a month or less, you can get judgment. In fact, you can even go today, and today that the matter is finished. So it's possible. You understand?
I've not heard that anyways, but so you were trying to tell me that I'm going to face some challenges by virtue of me taking the matter to the police instead of going to the court.
Yes, like my colleague said, the police really has no business with the recovery of debts. Most times when the police try to recover debts from debtors, they use force. They even make arrests and all that. They threaten the debtor. So all those things will amount to a breach of the rights of the debtor. If you look at the Constitution, fundamental rights are guaranteed. And one of those rights is the right to dignity of the human person, freedom, liberty, personal liberty. So by using the police to arrest me, you stand a chance of running foul of those provisions.
Well, I'm still not okay with these things because I need my money. PID, do you have anything to add to what you have?
I have a whole lot, but let me just summarize. Now, the idea behind taking someone to court to recover your money is because the law presumes that no one party is guilty or liable for an offense from the word go, or liable for a wrong from the word go. Now, for instance, in criminal situations or circumstances, the law presumes that everyone is innocent
until
you are proven guilty.
Okay.
So the thing is, the idea is let everybody be heard.
Okay.
The debtor on his own has a right to be heard.
Okay.
Yes.
So the tenant that is owing me has a right to tell the court that he's owing me or he's not owing me. We'll come back. We'll just take a short break now. When we come back, we'll continue. Don't go anywhere. Do we have people that actually sue the police or the landlords and then get judgment against the police?
Yes, what we call fundamental rights enforcement.
Okay.
Now, the procedure in fundamental rights enforcement is that you can sue the landlord or whoever the creditor was. Yes, for allowing you to stay in prison, for limiting your right of food. Police can also be sued alongside that.
Payment of money, it is a common ground that in both processes or in both options you spend money. Longer term now. Now, if you go to the police and you get that sum that is being owed you now, it could be that the sum that is being owed you, let's say it's 1 million naira, and the person has owed you that money for 5 years, even more. What are the interest in that money? How do you get it?
Feel the Ijaw energy. Feel the Ijaw energy. Feel the Ijaw energy.
I have to be dramatic.
Welcome to Connect Bayelsa. Welcome to Connect Bayelsa.
Welcome to Connect Bayelsa.
Okay. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, we are discussing the police as an agent of debt recovery, which is the prevalent practice or norm that we see in our Nigerian society. And Mr. Daniel, you just said from the illustration of a landlord and a tenant, you just rightly pointed out that a tenant has a right to tell the court whether he's owing or he's not owing, that he's not wrong on the go.
Exactly.
So now, and then he also told us earlier that it is actually wrong for me to involve the police before you told me that I should take the matter to court because the tenant has a right. I'm just wondering what is happening here. But then my next question is that do we really have people that take, like for instance, the tenant that the police has harassed several times, and then he ended up making payment or signing an undertaking. Maybe he was arrested and detained for a day or two, and all that, basically on that contractual or landlord tenancy matter. Do we have people that actually sue the police or the landlords and then get judgment against the police?
Yes.
Is it possible?
Yes, it's very, very possible. There's what we call fundamental rights enforcement.
Okay.
Now, the procedure in fundamental rights enforcement is that you can sue the landlord or whoever the creditor was. The creditor, okay. Yes, for allowing you to stay in prison, for limiting your right of freedom of expression. Yes, for moving around, for allowing you to stay in prison for a certain period of time, for making the police to arrest you. In fact, the police can also be sued alongside in that suit. And even if the debtor does not have the means to do that on his own, there are certain civil organizations whom the law empowers to ensure that the fundamental rights of that debtor is preserved and protected and enforced.
So you're saying that matters like this have actually been in court. This is not a new thing.
No, exactly.
It's actually had judgments in this light.
Yes, there's nothing abstract about it.
Okay.
It's something that has happened over and over and over again. The challenge I believe we have is that we are not enlightened in this country enough to let the people see that these things happen and can happen.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Wasini. I want us to do a little juxtaposition of assuming but not conceding that you can actually go with the police or go to the court. I want us to do a juxtaposition of going to the police and going to the court. That means I want us to look at the advantages and the disadvantages. Take, for instance, if I'm going to the police, I would do what they call mobilization fee. I have to mobilize them. On the other hand, if I'm going to court, I will file processes. I will still spend money. So I want you to just give us one or two high points on the differences and the advantages and disadvantages of either using the police or going to court.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, going through the courts or going through the police to recover debts. Now, both ways you spend money, okay? Like you rightly pointed out. Going to the police, you have to mobilize them in courts. Now, if you want to also go through the courts, you have to pay for filing fees, you have to engage a lawyer, you pay a lawyer and all that. So, in terms of payment of money, it is a common ground that in both processes or in both options, you spend money. Okay. But looking at the longer term now, if you go to the police and you get that sum that is being owed you now, it could be that the sum that is being owed you, let's say it's 1 million naira, and the person has owed you that money for 5 years, even more. What are the interest in that money? How do you get it? If you go through the police, it is very unlikely that you will get interest on that money. But if you go through the courts, despite the delays, the seeming delays, you will still get interest on that money. You understand? Okay. So that is one advantage of going through the courts. Secondly, you also have what is called damages in law. What is damages? Damages is monetary compensation that is paid to you for the time, for the delay, and for the effort you spent in enforcing a right. Okay. So if you go to court now, the court might award damages to you, but the police don't have the powers to award damages to you. So those are the two standard advantages of going to the courts instead of using the police.
Mr. Daniel, do you have any other advantages to add?
Yes, I do. For instance, in the landlord and tenant scenario that we are having, when as a landlord you take your tenant to court upon expiration of his rent and he refuses to deliver a vacant possession of the property,
Okay.
you can actually claim for men profits.
Okay.
Now, what we call men profits is for the duration that he has stayed in the premises, in the apartment.
After the expiration.
Exactly, thank you
Okay.
very much. After the expiration of his rent.
Okay.
So you can pay that, you can get monies in that regard, and you can pay monthly. You cannot, if it's the police, it's a different ball game. You just there and then, and you'll be fine, because the makers of our laws are very considerate in times like this. That yes, this duration that this man has stayed in for a while, if he had put another tenant in that place at some point in time, he would have made money. So
Okay.
you cannot now come there and stay over and say yes because my rent has expired. No, you still have to pay for the rent that yes.
Wow,
that you
wow,
have
wow, wow.
been over.
It's really, really been enlightening. Thank you so much. I want you guys to give our audience your final thoughts on this topic that we have discussed. A lot of Nigerians out there are indigent. They're also not enlightened on the proper procedure, the legal procedure to recover their sums. And I believe that from today's discussion, they've learned a lot. So I want you to give them your final thoughts, Mr. Daniel. What's your final thoughts to Nigerians?
All right. My final thoughts to Nigerians from what has been discussed and said over time is that if you have somebody who is owing you money, the police, or let me even stretch it a bit, some persons even go as far as saying the police will not be effective enough, so they even want to involve the Nigerian army. Whatever, in whatever way or manner you want to put it, yes,
we see that happening.
Yes,
we see it
happen every time. Yeah. They will even go as far as saying, look, the police no get power. We go use army, take show arm. Say the police or the army do not have that right to give you your money back. The only legal way, on the only legal route by which you can get your money back or have your money back is through the courts. Because you see that most times you will even be opened up to litigation at every point in time, if the procedure you took was wrong. And that's just my final thoughts. Let's be patient with the law. We'll get there. It's not a perfect system yet, but we'll get there.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Wasini, what's your final thoughts to Nigerians?
Okay, I think this issue borders basically on perception. You know, we Nigerians, we have this mentality of getting things quick, and it's not the best way. Going through the police, you might get a form of settlement, you might get your money. Going through the courts too, you may get judgment. But the question will now be, how do you now enforce that judgment? Going through the police now, it is difficult for you to enforce that because it is not even a judgment of court. Yes. So how do you enforce it? You can't enforce it. But if you go through the courts and you get a judgment, there are various ways you can enforce that judgment. You have what is called garnishee proceedings, whereby all the accounts of the person that is owing you that money, that you have that judgment against, you can proceed against the account of that person. So whatever bank the person is banking with, the bank is liable to pay over that money to you by order of court. But the police does not have such powers to enforce judgment.
Wow.
So that is the way forward. Yes, it might be slow, as my colleague said.
So in a scenario where the person does not have a bank account, and you want to enforce that judgment, how else can you also get your money back?
There are numerous ways you can enforce your money. You can enforce a judgment of courts. Going through the bank is what we call garnishee proceedings, but that is not the only form. You have what is called sequestration. You have what is called rate of fife. You can also attach and sell the person's property, whether movable or immovable. So there are various ways you can enforce a judgment of court, which such options are not available with the police.
Wow. Thank you so much, Mr. Wasini. Thank you so much, Mr. Daniel, for being with us on today's edition of the show. And you've heard from my panelists that it is illegal for you to involve the police in purely civil contractual matters. An example is recovery of debt. Join us again same time next week as we do another expose on some of the other prevalent practices that we see in our Nigerian society. But for now, don't forget to follow us on our social media platforms and also on YouTube. And don't also forget to turn on the notification button. See you next time.